Hey friends, I need to confess something. I have a terrible habit, and you might have the same one too. But whenever I get in a disagreement with somebody, I make an assumption. And here's what the assumption is. I assume that I base my position off of facts, off of information, and off of things that are about the truth. And I think my opponents base their conclusions off of their feelings, their background, their bias, the hurt they've experienced, and the way they've always thought. And so whenever we have disagreements, I assume everybody else believes who they are because of how they've been formed and how that is, but I base what I believe off of great, solid, quality information, really good analysis, a scrutiny of the facts, and my hard work. Well, that's a myth. And I want us to think about that a little bit today, because that's one of the large reasons that we disagree with people. Sometimes we have minor disagreements that become huge disagreements because of the way that we depersonalize others, the way that we make others be less maybe critical thinking than us, the way that we assume that they're just kind of floating along with the crowd and we're the ones who are really fighting upstream. And sometimes it exacerbates an argument because we make it where not only do they have the wrong conclusion, but I really wonder if they're a good person. I really wonder if they have good motives. I really wonder if they have pure intentions. And so to think about this, I want to talk about one of the best books I've read in the last 3 or 4 years. And it's a book called The Righteous Mind by an author named Jonathan Haidt. Haidt doesn't necessarily write this from a Christian perspective at all, but he does ask the question, why is it that good people disagree about politics and religion? And you might have asked this question a lot lately. And you might have even looked at other people's conclusions on politics or religion and wondered, are they a good person? And I want us to talk about two things here. And here's what Haidt suggests. In this book, Haidt says that at the end of the day, no matter how much we want to believe that our personal conclusions are based on information and our reasoning, every scientific study he's done as a professional and every scientific study he has seen as a professional show that people are more likely to base their conclusions off of their intuitions, our feelings, our backgrounds, our emotional responses, and how things strike us. Now, he's not saying that that means that all people's intuitions are equal. Some people's intuitions are better than other people's intuitions. He just wants to let us know that it's okay to know that our intuitions do matter. And he also doesn't say that this doesn't mean that there is no reasoning going on. The illustration he uses is this. He says in his book that your feelings are like an elephant, and your reason is like the person on top steering the elephant. Your reason makes suggestions, and it does matter what you try to do. But we also need to recognize that that elephant is going to kind of go sometimes where the elephant goes. And you do have something to do with it. And so he's not saying that all reason is equal. There are some people who have excellent reason, some people who have an excellent grasp on information, and others who don't. And it doesn't also mean that all feelings are equal and all feelings are valid. He doesn't say that either. He just thinks it's really healthy for us to know that sometimes good people of good morality, a good ethical posture, and of good intentions can disagree for a variety of reasons. And here's a few of those. What he lays out are 6 values that all of us hold a little more tightly or a little more loosely. And depending on how tightly or loosely you hold these 6 things, it'll show a little bit of how good people can disagree. And here's the 6. Care, fairness, loyalty, authority, sanctity, and liberty. I'm going to run through those one more time. Care, fairness, loyalty, authority, sanctity, and liberty. And he takes a lot of different political issues or philosophical issues and lays those against those and shows how some of us hold those pretty tightly and others of us hold some of the other ones pretty loosely. And you can tell the difference if a person is a liberal or a conservative on a particular issue. It probably has to do with which of those 6 values they're drawing from most at that time. For those of you who are believers or those of you who are Christian ministers, and you can really relate to this, you've probably been in conflict in a faith group or something like that where one group believes that they got to their conclusion by good, solid, clear thinking, ration, reason. Read the Bible and do it. I believe it, God said it, I believe it, that settles it, and that sort of thinking. And they accuse others of believing because they're just going with the culture, or they're just believing what they heard as a child. And you try to negotiate those. And you wonder, okay, Jonathan Haidt, that's great, but what does he have to say to me as a minister? What does he have to say to my church? And the book I'd recommend on that is a book by Gregory Boyd called Across the Spectrum. And what he does here is just goes through a lot of different topics that you may have in your mind, things that might come up in church. Is there a hell? Is the Genesis account in the Bible historically reliable? Does God know the future? What does it mean to say I'm saved by the blood of Jesus? And so there's some topics that we might talk about. And Boyd goes through and across the spectrum and says, let's try to figure out how the best intentioned person would represent these positions. Don't take the best of what you believe and then measure it against the worst of what somebody else believes. Don't take the most righteous person you know of one faith and then measure it against the least righteous person of another faith. Don't do that. Let's take the positions and imagine what the best, most responsible person, how they would represent those, how good people can come to different conclusions, and then see what's actually at stake. Now, Boyd doesn't think all of these are equal. He doesn't think all of these are legitimate. But it does help us appreciate, in their best of moments, sometimes people who are good and well-meaning can disagree. See you next time.